Episode 1. You're a Bastard. November 26th, 2021, New York City, USA. A drop of sweat trailed down Bryson Gonzalez's face as he stood in front of his stepfather, Lazarus Gonzalez, who was sitting in the head chair of the conference table. He looked like a powerful person who had control over everything. The fear of his presence was visible on Bryson's face. The silence in the big hall was deadly, the furnishings and ambiance complementing the eerie atmosphere. The room was poorly lit, despite the large windows, and the walls were covered with animal skins hung as trophies. Two young and beautiful women stood behind the chair of Lazarus Gonzalez, the vampire king. Their necks were exposed and ready to be fed on. Bryson, who was stuck in his 20s grudgingly, broke the silence. "You wanted to see me, Father?" he said, his eyes glued to the floor. "Well, well, look who's here, my bastard son," Lazarus Gonzalez said, with a cold voice emphasizing the word bastard. Bryson clenched his fist in anger, his nails digging into his palms. Despite having the power to heal almost instantly, he let the wounds drip blood. Lazarus Gonzalez stood up, and as he walked toward Bryson, he said, "No need to hurt yourself anymore, Bryson. I have just the deed for you to finally prove your worth to me." He opened Bryson's clenched fists and continued, "And don't even try to cross me again. You remember what happened last time, don't you?" Bryson started to breathe heavily as he recalled the incident where he had lost his only love. He closed his eyes as he remembered her beautiful face for the first time in years. But the beautiful face came up with some memories which Bryson had dumped in the farthest corners of his heart. July 15th, 1474. "I love you, Bryson, and I will always love you," the girl in his arms said as she took her last breath. Her body turned to stone as the last drop of her blood drained out of her. Rose, get up!" Bryson exclaimed desperately. He pulled out the stake from her stone-cold body and tried to pour the drops of blood into her mouth. "Rose, you can't leave me. You promised me," Bryson demanded. Fresh tears rolled down his face. This was the second time he cried for a woman he loved. Bryson shook her dead body helplessly. Defeated, he cradled the love of his life in the middle of a street in Italy. A wicked smile formed on Lazarus Gonzalez's face, who was witnessing this from a distance. "You did a great job, Coulson. You have proved that you are my pure blood," Lazarus said as he looked towards his elder son, Coulson Gonzalez. "When you can't kill a snake, make it your friend. I have learned this from you, Father," Coulson said as he crossed his arms with pride. The satisfaction of winning reflected on his face. Lazarus patted his son on the back, content. "That's what humans do when you try to establish peace," Lazarus deadpanned as he approached Bryson with his arms crossed over his chest. He continued, "You just love to learn your lesson the hard way. You're the cause of this poor girl's death." As soon as these words left Lazarus's mouth, Bryson's eyes turned blood red. His dejected face darkened with anger, the veins on his neck becoming prominent. He growled, and in a blink of an eye, he stood in front of his father, breathing heavily. He exposed his fangs, ready to pierce through his father's skin. His shadow towered over Lazarus with fangs and wings. "You bastard!" Lazarus shouted as he looked at Bryson, who was way too close to him. "If you are angry, unleash it on those who killed your lover, not me. You are a mistake my wife made. I will not spare your life this time. Try to cross me, and you will also take your last breath beside your lover." Lazarus growled as he looked straight into Bryson's eyes. Present time, November 26th, 2021. Bryson's eyes widened as the flashback felt so real. Tears started to form in his eyes as the memories of the past clouded his mind. The fear was visible on his face. Fear of dying, fear of losing everything he had built, but most importantly, fear of being alone and loveless his whole immortal life. Lazarus laughed. "That's why you're a bastard and not my son," he mocked, pointing at Bryson's wet eyes. "You are weak and pathetic, and this makes me question, will you be able to do this work for me?" "Father, I will do it. Please, grant me the way for my redemption," Bryson said. He knelt, holding his father's leg. After thinking for a minute, Lazarus said, "Get up." Bryson obeyed like a good child. "You want my love? You want me to never call you the bastard that you are? Then I won't." Lazarus trailed off, an evil smile on his face as he continued. "If you will do this last thing for me, the task is pretty simple. You just need to love a girl until you kill her yourself." As these words echoed in the big hall, Bryson was left stunned. What kind of sick task was this? Later that night, Jade's heartbeat drummed like crazy as she stood at the grand door of the most popular witch school in the country. It was the first time she had been out without her father. A set of 5 fingers intertwined with hers, trying to calm her down. Jade Laveau looked beside her to see her only friend standing by her side, Christian Dyer, the school's golden boy. Their eyes locked with each other, and a small smile formed upon Christian's face. "Come on, let's get inside," said Christian with a smile that never left his face. "Gosh, I am so nervous. I don't even know how to act around so many people," Jade said. Her nervousness could be felt in her silvery voice. She rubbed her arm as she usually did in similar situations. Christian noticed and tried to calm her down. He looked at her and said, "You have me, don't worry. Everything will be just fine." Jade nodded in response before walking in, holding each other's hands. Several eyes fixated on them as they entered the school building. The music was loud, and most of the students were drunk from the witch's special elixir made of blueberries, the eye of newt, tequila, and the toe of frogs. This This feels so different, Jade said, out of words to describe the scene. Christian giggled and looked at Jade. Different as in... It looks so alive. I mean, how could witches be so careless when they know there are vampires out there ruling the world? Jade asked. A wave of emotions overwhelmed her. She couldn't understand if she should be happy to witness this part of life or worry about these witches. Jade, vampires can't cross the limits set by your father. They can't hurt any witches, and if they try to do so, they will be punished according to the law set by the Joint Committee of Witches and Vampires. Christian cupped Jade's face, making her face him. He continued, "Your father did an amazing job being president of the Witch Union. He was finally able to restore the peace between witches and vampires." Jade took a deep breath and whispered to herself, "Then why am I still not allowed to go out?" "Did you say something?" Christian said. "No, nothing. So, what do we do at these parties?" Jade asked as she looked around herself. She was still amused by the scene in front of her eyes. "We drink, we dance, and we get wasted until the sun comes up," Christian said. He was excited to be at this party with Jade. "Sounds amazing." "Wait, I will go grab something for us to drink. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere," Christian instructed Jade and left her. Jade looked around herself and was fascinated to see this carefree world. It was different from the one her father told her about. When Christian didn't come back in the next 5 minutes, Jade decided to go and look for him herself. As she started walking, she bumped into a hard chest. "Sorry, I didn't see you," Jade said. She moved her head away from his chest. The smell of his cologne was intoxicating, making her feel numb. She looked up to see his face. That night, the allure of darkness was at its peak, and barely any moonlight graced the earth. "Your eyes." These words came out from Jade's mouth involuntarily. She felt like she was drowning in those beautiful emerald eyes. No words were exchanged, but they both kept staring into each other's eyes as they shined together. Jade couldn't keep still anymore. She walked closer to him and brushed his face with her soft fingers. The stranger flinched at her touch. Without uttering a word, the man walked away, leaving her alone, wondering if she would ever be able to see those beautiful emerald eyes again.